Hello, my name is Mohsen Paul Sarfarazi, and I would like to welcome you to another program of paper recital. And today we have with us back Mrs. Sumaira Ashfaq, and she's going to recite the second part of a paper that she did last time, of course, of different topic, but all related. And this is on separation, the illusion of separation. Just, the paper actually is going to be, again, referenced wherever you see this video that you're watching, you will see that, there are links to that, and it will take you, this particular one, I think only takes you to wordpress.com. Pretty soon we will put it on academia also. And from there on, it should be fairly easy for you to, surf the, site and find the other papers. Simply just, Google my name, first of all. Google my name, you can get to all this stuff. Or in there, you can do a search under my full name and the other papers will show up. And that's academia.edu. And the other one, of course, the wordpress.com. Once you get to one paper, there is a menu on top that will, guide you to papers on a variety of subjects, which if you go into those files, the links are available and easily you can get to the other papers. So anyway, this paper, as I said, is going to be about separation. And the treatment is kind of more in general character, not entirely from a focused on scientific points, quantum mechanics or anything like that. And it's with reference to ascension. Okay, so later I think we'll probably have Sumaira, if I'm sorry, I apologize. Sumaira's name is Afzal, not Ashfaq. I don't know why I have Ashfaq, and I do apologize.
My old address. It was my old address, and that's my father's name. But now my name is Sumaira Afzal.
Okay, so we will refer to her from now on, Sumaira Afzal.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, there are other papers that get into quantum mechanics and speaks of quantum entanglement, which is the underlying scientific point or with regard to connectedness, which is the opposite of separation, what she'll be talking about today. And we'll see with her if she has any interest later to come and recite that for us in future times. Also, that connects you also to some other papers that basically speaks of local and non-locality of aspect of all these quantum of energy, which are the basis for consciousness. So on the non-local, you could start connecting to God source and all that. And certainly to what I presented as order, cosmic order. And I think the paper was entitled, "We Are All Bound by a Cosmic Order," or something of the nature. I wrote it 4 or 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So anyway, also that might be a good area to get into this. And the other thing is that all of you at large have to really start understanding what consciousness means from a more substantial scientific point of view, which is the quantum of energy. Everything is energy, and energy moves about and actually vibrates. And so quantum consciousness is another aspect of it, which if you talk of general consciousness, that's non-local, but the non-local comes to us, becomes local, and then talking about quantum sentient vibration, okay? We'll see if we can connect to those things. Somebody will, they've already actually asked me to to recite some of these papers. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a more general sense to this. And there are other, I think, parts of this. Maybe Sumaira can shed more lights on it. It's been a while I wrote them. But I think I talked about unity consciousness also, and quantum aspect of unity consciousness. That might be the part 3 and all that. So, you know, just to keep you interested that these things are coming. And as you go, you know, layer by layer, you develop a fundamental understanding for God's science, right? God's consciousness mechanics, you know, in the cosmos, and then in the universe, and then locally, and then us as a microcosmos, part of the macrocosmos, okay? So with that introduction, I will give the screen to Sumaira, and then I will be back after she has recited and made her commentaries and comments and everything. And if she has any questions, she will call me back, and I will be back in here to answer questions. So again, I welcome you to the program, and I hope that you will enjoy this. Here's Sumaira.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah, and I'm from Canada. And the reason I am choosing this paper today is about, even though it's from the head ascending to the 5th dimension, but there is a series of papers that is written under this head, and one of this is the separation, illusion of separation. And many times I ask myself that we really are alone, or it's just an illusion that has been created by us or for us, that we just are entangled in it. And when you read the papers, many times you see that you find those questions which you have not articulated any time in your life, and you find the answers to those questions. And you feel that all those shackles are just falling apart, and you feel free, and you feel more powerful in yourself, that you are not separate, and you're stronger in unity as well. So I'm reading this paper for those who want to get some answers, and for those who are just entering into this understanding of themselves. It is a good idea to read these papers, because once you start reading these papers, many times you understand them, and if not, then you start making sense of the things, that why things are a certain way, why we are in a certain way. So what we do here, we read the paper, we try to make sense out of it, and then realize that many things we understand are not the way we understand them. And Dr. Mohsen Paul Sarfarazi's papers actually really help in this regard, that you can start answering your questions in those readings. So today's paper is Ascending to the 5th and Higher Dimension. It's the part 2, The Illusion of Separation, by Mohsen Paul Sarfarazi, Ph.D. Abstract. It has been explicated herein that the most prominent factor that has subjugated the 3rd dimensional human being to seemingly perpetually lurk within the low conscious domain of the earth is plague of separation. Although mankind was initially created as a conscious generator, as a companion to the Almighty Prime Creator, the original source of consciousness of all that there is, the seeming endless cycle of reincarnation has plunged mankind into a sense of deep amnesia regarding its true nature of existence as a divine being of light. As a result, mankind has come to separate itself from its soul and its progenitor spirit, from fellow divine beings of light, and indeed from its parent prime creator. However, it has been ordained that humanity is to ascend to the fifth and higher dimensions, in which the idea of separation is indeed taboo or non existent, where all sentient beings function harmoniously and synchronously as a collective. However, this is contingent on the fact as to whether there is allowance by the human beings itself for such evolutionary process to ever take place, acquiring impeccability and spiritual mastery. It is elucidated that clearly the doctrine of non interference and the utter respect for free will is still very much a factor in the equation of ascension, and indeed, our evaluation in this regard no longer the absurd ideology of survival to the fittest or looking for the number one, the self, is revered in the fifth and higher dimensions. And together with this new adoption of the concept of collective or unity consciousness, addressed in companion paper, are the abandonment of fear, anger, prejudice, victim consciousness, conflict, war, as well as such relevant maladies as materialism, futile accumulation, greed, jealousy, need for secrecy, and other proprietary measures. A brief statement regarding the source of evolution of humans is presented. It is indicated that, indeed, it is a false contention, if not abomination, to argue that humanity was evolved from apes and in turn arising from the purportedly eventual development of bacteria from the primordial soup. In contrast, what animates a human is of divine origin, spearheaded by a light being, ultimately emanating from the original source of consciousness, the prime creator. The futile fascination or memorized notion of form as the third dimensional humans so ardently occupy themselves with is yet another side malady of conception of separation. This is manifested by the voracious yet fruitless enthrallment with sexual endeavors and paying vain narcissist attention to the physical form, which is wasteful and futile, as clearly the body is merely the vessel that serves as the temple of the soul and provides a convenient venue for experimenting in space time, culminating in spiritual education being requisite for consciousness expansion. Finally, it is clarified that although humans have traditionally viewed themselves as being alone in the universe, another separatist trend expressed by a consistent program of misinformation and disinformation, and have considered themselves as being unique and crown jewel of all living things, this contention is false, as this universe is teeming with all forms of sentient beings. The separation from the self is itself illusory, as within the low frequency of the third dimensions, human soul is commonly fragmented into a myriad of soul aspects, undergoing unconscious multidimensionality in order to experience multiple life sojourns simultaneously within the parallel dimensions. Introduction. The most characteristic of the lower dimensional consciousness traits, such as that of third, is the phenomena of separation or disconnectedness. We are all sentient creatures that were created as companions and offsprings of the Almighty Prime Creator, who is the progenitor of our consciousness. As the Prime Creator reached a point of singularity, as may be optimized by omnipotence or consciousness, it is decided to implode upon itself as to form companions that would function as further consciousness generators and ultimately serve as co-creators. In particular, these worker bees of the consciousness generating machinery reside at the outskirts of the consciousness domains of cosmos, signifying the body of the prime creator. The nature of this domain of low consciousness is that it is inundated with low frequency light, giving it the characteristic of the low light quotient or propinquity. The particular environment of the low consciousness realm, third dimension, is such that the time progresses very slowly, and thus the space-time is dominated by the notion of space. Therefore, the pixels of reality can be viewed in a slow motion, if you please, thus providing an excellent forum for experimentation and spiritual education. Furthermore, this educational forum is governed by duality in which contrasting sojourns of life could be experienced, leading to consciousness expansion. It is clear that prime and ideal way to learn is through contrast. For this reason, the consciousness generators are endowed with the gift of thoughts as to employ logic and rationalism as to distinguish the right from the wrong, or the positive and the productive conscious energies from their negative and destructive counterparts. This is what the author has referred to as positive and negative karma, respectively. And to augment the degree of optimization of such as consciousness generating machinery, the soul is fragmented into myriads of its different aspects, vibrating within distinct parallel dimensions of reality, as to attain added variety of experiential life sojourns simultaneously. Moreover, although it all happens within the now moment, each individual soul aspect remains in amnesia, being oblivious to all its other life experience within the parallels. Thus, although the soul is under the impression that it is experiencing matter and space in a particular fixed timeline, in what is referred to as physicality, it actually constantly and sequentially jumps into these parallel dimensions, seemingly being fixed in a space and moving in time during dream state and subconscious endeavors. And the whole fragmentation of soul is its inherent low frequency is commensurate with the low frequential space-time of the third and its low extent of consciousness. This way, each soul aspect is capable of adequately solely decipher its life sojourns within the parallels one at a time, being oblivious or unconscious with respect to all that transpires in all dimensions. Thus, it does not experience any mayhem or confusion, being capable of properly keeping track of all that transpires, and it experiences in its physical consciousness at the one at a time. This in turn all culminates in acquiring expanded consciousness. However, unfortunately, this amnesia has the disadvantage of giving the soul aspect the wrongful impression that it is indeed alone or independent of the all, in which case it creates its own reality. Although the latter point of the co-creativity and sovereignty as to determine its own fate or reality is partially correct, it is fatal error in assuming that we as conscious entities are ever alone, fully independent, or even have a distinct or unique identity. However, as a result of being entwined in a repetitious cycle of reincarnation, the third dimensional man has come to the erroneous impression that it was created fortuitously and uniquely through an indescribable process of biochemical reaction and genetic evolution. As a result, man has fancied itself as to having a unique identity, being the crown jewel of all living things within the cosmos. Again, although the assessment of uniqueness in terms of being the crown jewel of bioentities is not far from the truth. The whole design was purposefully endowed. As such, mankind actually possesses 12 strands of helical structure arranged in the form of 6 double helices that forms in DNA plus 6 additional strands of RNA. While the DNA constitutes the genetic essence, RNA plays a significant role in communicating with the higher dimensions. In fact, only a single double helix of our DNA is of biochemical elements that is currently active and interfaces electrically with the higher dimensional realm of the cosmos, the ethereal. In contrast, the other DNA strands are of etheric nature that are stealth to us as they vibrate as considerably higher frequencies, which appear to have been dormant all the time. Besides, only less than 3% of our DNA appear to be active. These are what have been commonly referred to as junk genes by our mainstream scientists. And although DNA is present in each and every cell of our bodies, it is within our divine endocrine gland, the pineal, that there is a master cell containing a chromosome that serves as the command center for our DNA activation. The pineal gland is often referred to as the third eye or the seat of the soul, or as the author puts it, the gateway to our expanded consciousness and multidimensionality, which connects us to the universe beyond our own. Thus, only a small portion of us is physical. The rest is of ethereal nature that is stealth in terms of physicality, yet tangibly exists that can interfere with the rest, higher dimensional portion of the cosmos. When our natural frequency is upshifted as to resonate with the higher dimensions harmoniously, synchronously, as well as multidimensionally. In fact, the author has articulated in the past, in the context of multidimensional vibration of soul aspects, that we have the propensity of vibrating with multiple degrees of freedom, each at a distinct frequency, eigenvalue, and a dimensional mode, eigenvector. And this is feasibly achieved as we discretize ourselves into a series of distinct soul aspects, each vibrating at a different natural frequency, eigenvalue, within a distinct parallel dimension, eigenvector. However, the multidimensional characteristic of our existence has been somewhat of an enigma among conscious beings resonating at distinctly low natural frequencies, at which the nature of our multidimensionality has been as stealth to us as the ethereal and the main aspect of our existence. This is why mankind has traditionally, ignorantly, arrogantly, and continuously viewed itself as being alone, what is commensurate with its physical existence. This is what has been traditionally perceived as being rational or logical to ponder upon. And as far as even physicality is concerned, mankind has always found comfort in believing that it is indeed alone in all. This is gigantically proportioned cosmos, dubbed as the universe, comprised of billions of galaxies, each containing billions of planetary spheres, while clearly even this comparatively small Lebanon universe of us itself is teeming with other sentient life forms. The truth of the matter is no one is alone or purely independent of our other conscious siblings. In other words, we are all ever entangled with one another consciously. And the author has appropriately mathematically modeled this in terms of parameter dubbed as the consciousness expansibility link coefficient Kij, with the indices Ij defining the effect of consciousness of entity I on a conscious being. Furthermore, we are all governed by an overall divine order. It is true that as sentient beings, we are all endowed with the gift of freedom to roam around the space time, experimenting and experiencing the sojourns of life. However, we all jack in to or incarnate within particular dimension of consciousness run by certain matrix of reality that are served by or disseminated by our particular time space. Thus, strictly speaking, despite our freedom of will to choose among the programs of reality that are uploaded onto us, we are we are geared to these certain programs of reality that are commensurate with the level of consciousness and the frequency light quotient propinquity of particular space time we are anchored in order to vibrate about its myriads of parallel subdimensions. And it may be that we initially choose from among the Akashic records and from programs of reality indigenous to our relevant consciousness plane prior to our jacking in. But the fact remains that we are nevertheless geared to them, to only select from the myriads of possibilities or probabilities that are uploaded upon us amidst our incarnation on a particular physical plane. Thus, the illusory perception of separation or total autonomy as what we do during our physical life or the notion of total separate identity is futile. It is true that as a result of our gift of free will, we are privy to improvise in real time and choose from many of presented programs of reality, and to a certain extent modify the path or even certain details of pre-devised life sojourns. Nevertheless, we remain confined to operate within a range of frequencies that are commensurate with the level of our inherent light quotient and that of the space-time we are anchored within. The erroneous conjecture regarding our evolution. Unfortunately, mankind during its long records of repeated reincarnations, undergoing amnesia and separation from itself, has diverted into believing that it is alone and perhaps cropped up as a fortuitous fortuitous freak of accidental biochemical event as proposed by Darwin. The fact is that simply we are not the product of incipient bacteria to have fortuitously grown within a primordial soup. In this respect, the idea of us having purposefully evolved from apes is ludicrous, if not outrageous, and indeed an abomination. And in concert with the same absurd hypothesis is that as divine beings of light, we are meant to separate under the auspices of the ideology of survival of the fittest. These conjectures are best left for the low conscious non-sentient animals. Besides, the equation of physiology, biochemistry, and even the form is immaterial. The fact remains that our physiology was purposefully designed in matter by our form being seeded as to achieve a certain perfection that is commensurate with the level of existence in the third, fourth dimensional plane of consciousness. Furthermore, the purpose of our bodies is but to serve as a temple for the soul, a matter of convenience for us to be able to animate and experience within our particular space time. Beyond this, the matter of form is irrelevant. In other words, the fact remains that as divine sentient light beings occupying a physical body that facilitates our process of spiritual education and attaining consciousness expansion, our form was not fortuitously evolved from apes. And indeed, despite countless Efforts by the scientists to locate and identify the missing link to our purported course of evolution and their consequent failure testifies to this fact. It is a quest that will never be justified or fulfilled. We were simply seeded as to acquire an appropriate physical vessel as to accommodate our spiritual consciousness expansion quest in life. In this respect, our so-called evolution was purposefully accelerated to accommodate the requisite changes, which has no evolutionary basis in terms of biochemical evolution. Thus, while we have been led to believe that we are alone in the universe, promoting the mentality of ridiculing the idea of existence of aliens, we are indeed the aliens who are seated on this planet. Problems with the illusionary notion of separation. The feeling of aloneness or separation has brought a myriad of maladies in terms of consciousness of humanity. First of all, separation is conducive to establishing a fear-based society, and such a sentiment has been nourished and accentuated through misinformation and disinformation by a horde of synthetic or soulless entities who have been controlling our matrix of reality. These malevolent entities commonly prey upon the divine conscious energies of humanity by way of vampiric act and parasitic energetic endeavors. One may ask the question as to why such a scenario of life permitted by the divine. The answer is that it produces an even harder curriculum of spiritual education in which it has made the University of Duality of Earth a much dreaded school of hard knocks within the cosmos. It is not surprising that the resident of higher dimensional planes, such as Arcturians, Pleiadians, Sirians, and such openly praise the incarnate of Omni Earth as heroic braves who have ventured a jacking into such a matrix of reality in the first place. It is an adventure that they would not dare to indulge in, as they candidly affirm. The prolific consequences of separation is the notion of needed for survivalism. In this regard, the consciousness entity is constantly plagued by the notion of hunting, gathering, endeavor as to survive. And this, of course, could come at the expense to other fellow conscious siblings. It is all regarded as being kosher or justified as long as one caters to the self to survive. However, the notion of self-preservation or survival is strictly speaking illusory. Mankind needs very little to physically survive. Life experiences, life experience is all about consciousness expansion, as well as nourishing the soul as to be productive and creational as to co-creator as a helper to the prime creator. The prime creator has provided abundantly for all to prosper should they adhere to the principle of equality for the all, contingent on the respect for the doctrine of compassion and unconditional love. Unfortunately, separation dictates the motto of looking after for the number one, that is self. In this regard, selfishness, excessive self indulgence, greed, false pride, ego, superiority complex, prejudice, competition, jealousy, and even conflict, etc., are the norm and the practice most humans currently engage in. And strictly speaking, although survivalism as to live another day to hunt and gather, and procreation and the right of propagating one's genes are the characteristics of the low consciousness, animal humanity. Animal humanity even stooped below such level in many aspects. For example, the traits of jealousy, greed, ego, prejudice, gluttony, or overeating, excessive sex, or even over self-indulgence are absent or rare among the lower conscious animals. Furthermore, animals do not kill for pleasure or sport, neither, neither do they overeat for pleasure. If anything, if they overindulge themselves by overeating, it has the purposeful reason for acquiring a reserve and preparing for winter months and the harsher times when food is scarce. Moreover, animals only have sex to procreate, and by far they do not frantically engage in sexual activities casually as a hobby as humans do. This is the sort of thing humans preoccupy themselves with in their physical consciousness as a way to find comfort for their self insecurities, to perhaps fill their psychological spiritual void within them. Furthermore, animals are actually superior to man in one aspect, that they have not lost touch with their intuitive senses. This is because the very physical consciousness of the man and its seemingly advanced sense of logic and rationalization, that is the rudimentary tool for its acquiring consciousness expansion, often interferes with its natural divine senses by overthinking. On the contrary, animals often go with the flow, being more natural in their cognitive states. This means that they have hunt as to get access to food that serves to ensure their survival or longevity. But when they are not hungry or not in need of acquiring reserve as a preparatory measure for the incoming harsher times, they do not bother each other, even the praise. And they do not engage in futile conflicts as a result of politics or religion, which are the maladies of overreacting physical mind. In contrast, one can see that the predator and prey live in harmony, as is often experienced in cases of unusual bonds of friendship between seemingly opposite animal species developed in captivity. Such circumstances optimizes a condition that the predator is well provided for in terms of food or nutrition, and as a result, the animal follows its natural instinct in getting along and making friendship with other animals it lives with. However, mankind has always chosen to engage in conflict and war, mostly being misguided with prejudicial trends that include religion and ethnic and racial issues. Of course, this has been promoted and inflamed by a horde of selfish, ambitious, devious, roguish, warmongering individuals who ultimately benefit from the spoils of war or conflicts thus incited by them. And although the majority are innocent and are often caught up in artificially artificially triggered feuds by a few, ultimately it is the state of flow consciousness instigated as a result of conscious of separation that ultimately leads to rage, revenge, and self-destruction. This is something that should never be allowed. And on a personal basis, another side effect of separation that makes distinctly different than animals is that the third dimensional human often resorts to victim consciousness as a way of uselessly consoling oneself. In this regard, they seldom take responsibility for their erroneous actions and blame everything on others or a set of circumstances as to relieve themselves from the burden of self reflection, leading to self correction. It is indeed ego that is at play here, and low conscious act of attracting attention to oneself as a way of emulating or portrayal that they have indeed been subject to wrongdoings. They even carry this futile act of self pity to the extent that they blame the Almighty for their misfortunes. However, ultimately, mankind creates its own reality by resorting to its illusory notion of separation. And the concept of survival of the fittest is something that has to be left alone, applying to the lower animals. One may ask, why is life cruel, permitting the predator to feed on the prey? The answer to this is that life is perpetual and never ceases to exist. Just as quickly a prey is hunted and actually participates in a benevolent act providing food for the predator, it reincarnates into life in the same or an alternative form. In this respect, the circle of life continues. This is the way animals earn their stripes through diverse life experimentation and participation in the circle of life. However, the life of eating and being eaten is not ordained or meant for the higher conscious humanity. As a sentient being, a human is a consciousness generating machine. It acquires life experience through experimenting in space time and undergoing life sojourns that serve to teach it lessons as to acquire spiritual and intellectual education, culminating in consciousness expansion. Thus, in turn, adds to the order, consciousness expansion, and the longevity of the cosmos. The question of the form is indeed inconsequential to the human as a divine being of light. Unfortunately, mankind has expended much of its conscious energy in the past on materialism and vanity regarding the features of its physical body. Clearly, one cannot take what has been accumulated after physical death. Thus, materialism and the frenzy of accumulation is futile. Furthermore, engaging so much attention and expending concerted time and efforts on such things as survivalism, materialism, accumulation, physical self indulgence that include looks and preoccupation with sexual endeavors has left hardly any time for spiritual enlightenment and acquiring consciousness expansion. In this respect, it seems as if the effort is basically all lost, like the proverbial throwing the baby out with the water, as consciousness is all there is. And acquiring consciousness expansion is the prime creator's only directive to humanity and other sentient beings. And the fundamental culprit behind all is that constitutes man's plague for failure in attaining its goal as a consciousness generator is the notion of separation. Separation from self, fellow sentient siblings, and the source of our consciousness, the prime creator is primarily due to fear, disguised as a futile fear of survivalism, as well as such other things as fear of inadequacy to measure up in terms of looks, riches, position, and other self-inflicted distinctions has been man's primary reason to distract its attention to what does not serve the overall purpose of life and having consciousness. It has driven mankind to greed, competition, jealousy, ego, or false pride, which are the culprits for prejudicial tendencies in terms of religion, ethnicity or nationality, race, and other futile ideologies, further disengaging the mind from what matters, which is acquiring spiritual education leading to consciousness expansion. Summary and conclusion. To summarize the main points, Separation is the most devastating plague that has been haunting the third dimensional human, keeping mankind confined in the lower planes of consciousness. It has entailed separation from the self, indulging its higher aspect that primarily resides within the higher dimensions of consciousness. Separation from its own kind, the other offsprings of prime creator, and most importantly, separation from the omnipotent source. As the term itself suggests, separation has condemned mankind to exist in low propinquity, and as such, it is primary culprit for subjugating mankind to diminished state of low frequency light quotient. Perhaps more devastating consequences of separation is the fact that mankind has continuously been further derailed from appreciating its true nature, that is divine, primarily existing as a being of light, as opposed to being just a physical entity inundated by matter that is itself conscious degrading. In this respect, man has plunged further and further in amnesia regarding the perception of its true nature of existence as potentially consciousness generating entity, facilitating by a seeming conscious vicious circle of reincarnation for at least the past 13 millennia after the demise of Atlantis, and with it, the fall of firmament. And although the professor of duality and cause and effect has been a viable teacher, the consequent polarization of man has required the absurd illusion that it is perhaps alone or unique in the cosmos, accentuated by the meddlesome agenda of misinformation and disinformation of a horde of soulless dark energetic parasites manipulating our matrix of reality has led mankind into a futile, eruptive sense of self-destruction that no longer serves as any purpose. For this reason, nowadays marks the dawn of new era, ordained by the divine to change the course of mankind consciousness, development into a new direction via ascension to a new plane of consciousness, where separation is no longer allowed to be a factor in the equation of man's consciousness evolution. Therefore, with, with it must disappear all devastating maladies of the notion of survival of the fittest, victim consciousness, selfishness, and futile self indulgence swamped by their appetite for materialism, greed, useless accumulation, excessive neurotic carnal desire, egotism, and fruitless captivation with the physical form. Instead, the me is to be inverted, to transform to the concern for the we, and unity consciousness to replace the futile sense of separatism. Here, mankind learns to substitute the separatist traits of concern for our self indulgence inundated with a sense of competition and territorialism, governed by the acts of secrecy and over concern for proprietary ownership, and one that is based upon the doctrine of camaraderie, cooperation, and collectivism. Simply put, you learn to exercise compassion and love as to get along, viewing yourself a link in a chain that grows stronger and stronger by adopting the doctrine of good for the all, at the same time proving to be fruitful, culminating in security, prosperity, and tranquility for all its constituents. Thus, mankind no longer wastes precious moments with the low consciousness traits of hunting, gathering, being insecure and fearful with overwhelming concern for survivalism, and instead abandons the mesmerizing sense of enslaving fascination for the form, vanity, or narcissism, false pride, greed, competition, envy, abstaining from preoccupation with futile, deviant, yet short-lasting indulgence with carnal pleasure, and conversely invests time in productive, creative endeavors that are the invigorating consequences of consciousness expansion. That's it. So
Very
this
good.
was.
Thank you. I hope that the sound is going to be okay because I would hear some distortions, you know. But hopefully, when we play it back, it's okay. So, any comments? Any thoughts?
I would start with commenting something that it is this paper, even though it's written some time ago, but I think it's the need for today's reader, and one should take time to read these because there are so many things which we are suffering these days, and we are trying to find answers. We are everywhere we go and ask questions of such nature, we don't find answers. And I would direct people's attention to these papers, even though it's under the head of ascension, but it is actually addressing a lot of today's maladies and the very core concepts which I think come from within, and we question them, and why we are this way, and how long we have been in this way, and when we are going to end these kind of sufferings. So this paper addresses a lot of that, and I would like to not ask the question, but I would like to shed some light or goes into some details that why and how the humans started thinking that they are alone in this universe or mega universe. Where did it start all of that?
Very, very excellent fundamental question. Actually, something that I started, not particularly your question, the way you posed it, but I started writing about the negative aliens, why they became parasitic. Okay, and it goes to that. It actually goes to that because here we go. Billions and billions of years ago, we had uh, organic consciousness beings such as ourselves that became full of themselves, to put it mildly with the colloquial language, okay, became narcissists. They thought, you know, they're better than others. There's all the self supremacy and stuff. And the key thing that did them in, finally becoming parasitic, vampiric, something that they have been suffering all this time, which basically totally have lost their organic consciousness, okay, feelings, all that kind of stuff, right? But something that became a source of deep, deep hatred in them because they got separated from the God source. God source has, if you will, has an umbilical cord to all of us. Okay, now if you read the paper on karma and start looking at things on sentient vibration and basically quantum consciousness sentient vibration, what I call, okay? I started writing a revisited paper on that, but I have so much on my plate that I put it aside. Just one of these evenings was just coming to me and say, no, you got to really bring it in. It's all there, of course, but anyway, going back to your question, separatism is what did them in, because you're connected to this, to God through this umbilical cord, which I have defined it as the cosmological bivector of time. It's like a spring, it's like a helical spring that connects you to God, and you start, you know, torsionally vibrating or spinning back, forth, back, forth. You've probably seen things in all kinds of spirituality, and people were dabbling into all this now, and even academia, trying to understand consciousness. You know, they talk about spinning, quantum energy spinning, and that's what it is. You know, I introduced that about a long time. So basically, what we're talking about is that this helical spring, this umbilical cord, if you want to think about it, in, you know, in an analogy, got severed. They got, you know, it got cut. So they were in a state of suspended animation. And what that actually umbilical cord means is that you can expand away from God, and then you can go and venture in consciousness. Okay? And you have one directive: expand your consciousness. Be a consciousness generator, you know, not just a dissipator, okay? And when they got cut off of that, basically there was nothing to, you know, support them anymore. They didn't have a support, first of all, there, point of support. So they're in suspended animation. It's not even suspended animation. They're in abyss. They're going in abyss. And then there's no energy coming, because that umbilical cord basically also represents a form of free loop of energy. Of course, it loops, you know, that's why we call it loop of energy, right? And that loop of energy is not coming to you because, you know, you would go back, you expend, you stretch, expend this energy, and then contract back. Of course, this is the electric or male. This is the contractive or female. You know what I'm saying? So when you're caught, you're on your own. So you got to go in your reservoir of energy, whatever you have mustered by that point, and you have to use that. And then until you self-consume. Like the proverbial, again, some of this stuff has existed in metaphysics. I mean, a lot of this, there used to be a Keylontic science that they took away from us at the time of Atlantis and all that. That was God's mechanics. It was a result of 12, there were a science that was on 12 discs, you know, holographic discs describing everything, okay? And the Magi Kings, 12 of them that represented our you know what I'm saying, tribes, the 12 tribes of humanity. Each one of them had one of those, okay? All right? Because humanity is extremely complex. We epitomize the God's consciousness mechanics. There's so much science, there's so much technology in us that I couldn't even begin to make you understand at this point. You know what I'm saying? And it's just coming out little by little with this and that, and you know. Anyway, so going back to your question again, what is supposed to happen? These guys got separated. They became vampiric. They had to ward for themselves, and they didn't want to go back and reconnect to God and repent, because the reason that they got disconnected, because they went way out of line. They stretched this thing to the limit, its elastic limit, until it popped. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you this, that's a safe, fail-safe mechanism. God is not judgmental. God is not punishing, but has fail-safe. There are rules, there are laws in cosmos, in the mechanics and the physics of cosmos. You know what I'm saying? And also in universe, the same way. Those laws apply. There is a limit to this thing. Just like if you put a little mass connected at the end of the spring, okay, and connected somewhere else. Now that is the God source. That's the spring, the umbilical cord we were talking about, which is actually your soul. If you want to understand what that is, it is your soul. It stores energy, and the characteristic of a spring is that it stores energy in its system. When you compress it, it has energy, and if you let it go, something pops up, right? Are you listening? So anyway, going back to that, what happened was this: they lost it, and it was separation, and they did everything that led it to that. I have explained that paper also that became the underlying basis, or the basis for the so-called 7 deadly sins or cardinal sins, which of course they're not 7 because they interface with other things. You can say selfishness, narcissism. I mean, there's tons of things we can say, all the way to psychopathic traits, all this stuff, it all come from the sin. Entitlement, self-service to self, all this stuff. So anyway, they brought it to us because they said they suffered. We're going to make them suffer. And when they suffer, we know they produce luz. We have to put them under pain, suffering. We have to make them self-destruct, do self-destructive things, conducts, all these addiction, whether it's sexual, materialistic, or the anger, prejudice, eugenics, you know what I'm saying? Which leads to conflict, war, all this stuff. This is all dissipative. Because they become entropic. That's another group of papers I've talked about, entropy, entropy. They all relate to, everything relates to each other. It all goes to mechanics of creation, really. You can write them a chapter. I've wrote them basically as chapters and chapters of something from the book of creation. It is actually, you can put it together right now if you want to. You can always add to it, but you know what I'm saying? But anyway, going back to this separation started with them. They brought it to us. And how did they do it? They had AI technology, so they interfaced to consciousness mechanics through holographic inserts and things of that nature. And they created these parasitic beings, the archons did. So they're actually energetic beings that they come in and like a octopus. You know what I'm saying? They have tentacles and they grab onto you and start suck your energy. The attachment. Again, these things have existed. If you look at it, because of Keylontic science or something, of course, I'm sure, I don't know Keylontic science, I don't remember Keylontic science, you know what I'm saying, to that extent, in this form, I don't, but obviously it's within me. But the thing is that the objective was not talk about negative aliens, because the negative aliens are the exception to the rule of creation. They're the virus. They're what made everything entropic, something that God created a centropic system, consciousness expansion, and that's what gave you the directive, expand your consciousness. And I've introduced a paper also that, the cosmological law of consciousness expansion are related to centropy, concept of centropy, and formulated it from law of thermodynamics, second law, which is the most substantial thing ever been done on this planet. Even Einstein said second law of thermodynamics, because it has more ramification. Now, the second law of thermodynamics talks about closed system. This is an open system. So you get entropy here, and if it's open system, it's centropy, because that means open, infinite source of energy. You know what I'm saying? It never. And then first law of actually, it is the first law of, thermodynamics too, but it's also alternatively known as principle of conservation of energy, which I redefined it as simply say, whatever expands away from God must contract back to God. That preserves the energy of God. And you can never, dissipate energy of God. You think you're dissipating through you, but it converts. It converts to another energy that can go back to God. Even these negative aliens, I mean, you know what I'm saying? everything they've done, they can go back. You know, as dead energy that they have to be revived. You know, and all that stuff. They're too stupid to take that thing because they've stolen, they've created all this stuff. They think themselves they're gods. All this, so they don't want to go back, and they don't want to listen to anybody. Okay, but anyway, going back, Sumaira, to I get extensive. I hope it helps, but I do apologize for I ramble.
Very good explanation.
The separation comes from them. So what they did, they made sure through their mind control, all this stuff, they start separating you from yourself, not just from each other, because their problem was separation, lack of interconnectedness, and defying unity consciousness, which are the most fundamental things of the law of one. So indeed, you have already introduced people to the most essential thing of law of one. I didn't talk about it there in that sense, okay? But if you want to really think about it, it is the first thing, because you get separated from God. That is your defied interconnectedness. And interconnectedness means unity consciousness. We're all part of the same whole consciousness, but having individuated experiences, hopefully expanding. The whole system is expanding. You know what I'm saying? And the negative aliens have come in there and become a parasite, and they have no sense of responsibility, nothing, plunder, pillage, ravage, kill, destroy, drink blood, survive. So you have energy to go on. Now they don't have life the way we do. There's no life to go in there and plug yourself to the thing like Borgs and Star Trek and getting some energy so you can move and do some more work or do some other stuff you want to do, which is all nefarious anyway, all useless. You know, God tells you, here's the energy, go in there, learn, make mistake, dissipate if you want. That's okay. Come back, I refurbish it. You know what I'm saying? But then go in there and strive to do something constructive, creational. You know, the one thing that negative aliens do not have is creation whatsoever. It's all stealing, mimicking, and then reversing it. Everything that's good, they're not to quite the opposite, under David Woods, you know? Okay? So that's what separation is. And then through this mind control and all this stuff, they put these impulses in human beings that, you know, they want to have. I mean, they have this excess gluttony, I call it even gluttony, of sexual appetite. It's not really an appetite. There are some attachments in there that they're direct from moon. They're directed to the sexual organs. Okay, and you've heard about the what did they call it? I don't know, incubus or whatever. You know, the demons that sit on your chest in the middle of the night. People have woken up and they're having sex. I have people writing to me all over that this happening to them right now. And how do they take? You know, they're so disgusting. But when they get tagged, these attachments claim you. You're their slave. So they come in and they want to suck your energies. They can get you to do it when you're awake. Fuck. Excuse me, fine. If not, during the night, they come in and work on you. And, you know, we're a biological system. You know, we've got all this electro-biochemical thing, underground hormones, things like this starts running, and you don't understand what's going on. And we have no control of ourselves because we don't even know ourselves. We're not only in the state of amnesia, we don't know what magnificent beings we are, that we can be in control of everything. You know what I'm saying? So they, you know, I mean, go out there and see what's well. Look at the internet and see what this. It's, you know, beautiful young kids and stuff like this. They take them, put them in pornography, and then they come in there and they work on their vanity. They want to show themselves. What disgusting! You know what I'm saying? And then for what? I don't know even if they get anything. And if they do, whatever, a little money. And then listen to me right now. I'm talking to you today, this morning, I deleted 2 other things. Now they send it to your phone. They send it to your website. They put it on my papers. They put it on our videos. I deleted one on your video last time you did. Came in there and subscribed it and put a little website thingy in there. It was just three acronyms or whatever. And I don't like people advertising on my stuff. So I clicked on it and went to a porno site. So I deleted it. It was right on yours too. It was right. I remember it was your paper.
Yeah, actually, I have seen that.
Because you had
Yes.
Did you notice that or not?
Yeah, I noticed that. So it is. So it's they're actually attacking us in this way.
Yeah, no, they're stealing you. They are violating everything, beyond everything, to make you, get into self-destructive acts.
Oh, I see. Yes.
And
Yes.
it isn't your physical body. I mean, you get a man, okay, and clicks on this and goes there. Oh, whoa. She's a young girl and does all kinds of stuff. It's hard to stop. And then the first time, second time, third, it it is, you stop it, you stop it, you stop it, you stop it. People get a little bit more curious. Let me see what this is. And then they get hooked after a while. And then they think it's okay. There's nothing wrong. I'm expressing myself. What? Expressing what? You have a parasitic being right there feeding on you. That's how you're expressing yourself. You see what I'm saying? And that's just one thing. The same thing about money. People are crazy about money. Right now, it is almost impossible. I'm telling you, in Florida, right now, I'm suffering from this. I have a fountain in there that I want to put up. I got this guy coming in here, wined and dined them, helped them, advised them, paid them excessively to do the garden, because I was trying to do a Zen garden, and I'm always here, so I like to go and see that. And I will right by the canal too. So you know what I'm saying? And this fountain that I bought years ago, actually, I was building a medical park at that time. It was in 2008. You know how everything went down. By the way, what a catastrophe that happened there. I never was late on anything. Paid all the bills, everything, but I spread myself too much because I wanted to build a medical park. So I owed some money out there with the banks. Who would come in there, kiss me, kiss my whatever, wine and dine me, so I borrow money from them. I was among what they called what did they call it? Some trust used to call us, other banks, um, private banking. They called it private banking. They would provide a service. I would never have to go and stand in line. I would make one call, they make all the transfers, never charge me for the transferring lines. Now they charge you for everything. And they would give me a loan, and a year later they would call me and say, Doc, we noticed that this balloon on this finished a year ago. Come and sign the papers. So you're good for another 5 years, 1 whole year is gone. Because it was direct pay, so they would take from my account and pay their this stuff. You know what I'm saying? But what happened when 2007-8 came in, they called in my loans, okay, and they came to they're all 5-year programs, and these are some of this thing that had to do with building that blessed, and I was trying to help the doctors because my wife was a doctor, and I wanted to help people so they have a sanctuary to go. In fact, I set up 12 companies to do, even I was going to open an insurance company, to do everything. I wanted to even pull myself out of the system. They can come to us. We clean their office. We build the office for them. You know what I'm saying? Well, first of all, start from the beginning. We work with them. We build the office. We give them the loans. You know what I'm saying? And we do everything they need. I don't even ask me. Even do their tax services, all this stuff. I hired, set up people for all the kinds of things. It was too ambitious, just like me. When I get to something, I go crazy. You know, because I want to do everything that's right. You know, because you can't trust insurance companies. So I wanted to create it in such a way they don't overpay. It all comes from this thing that this office park, and they could have actually, they knew some of my stuff. By the way, they stole money from me, $250,000 I paid towards the loan. They walked away with it. They were crooks. I think they were put up to it to ruin me because they didn't want what I was doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They knew I'm not an entrepreneur. Never been. I'm not into business. Why is he doing all this stuff now? Of sudden, he doesn't care about money. Why was he doing this? Wanted to have a self-contained system. But anyway, they get into material stuff. Now, I'm going to tell you this: never ever I had a problem. I'm not even going to stick with it. Go on. Millions of dollars. You know. But they foreclosed on me one after another and after another. None of them were at fault. But you know what? Here's what it is. You have borrowed $1.2 million. I lost a property for $400,000. It was worth $3 million. I didn't have the $300,000 to give it. And I couldn't go anywhere to borrow that money anymore. People who were chasing me to give me money because I had first-class credit. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't them. The system pulled out.
Yeah.
So it would. I mean, people went and bought. I didn't do this kind of stuff for greed or money or accumulation or something. That one project. It was this park, 23 acres. It was about 300,000 square feet or whatever. All office buildings. All not office buildings. All medical buildings. It's all there right now in Ocala. It's still that land is still sitting there. I paid it off a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Are you with me? But they don't want this kind of stuff. They don't want, and I'll tell you something, even these people that you see, they build companies and become successful and stuff, right away they get there and they destroy them. They either buy it from them or they make sure that they get bankrupt or whatever. And if they work with them, they bring them a little up and they give them more garbage to do. There's nobody who's a philanthropist. There's nobody who's a billionaire who's not a crook. It's impossible on this planet because it's run by the negative aliens. See, I think I did all this stuff, and this is very uncharacteristic. Even my wife said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I started this by building a surgical center for my wife. But then the 22 acres became, I don't know how many office buildings. You know what I'm saying? I know several hundred thousand, a couple of 100,000 square feet, I know altogether. And I did it as one project. It was not like parcel to make money out of this, make money out of, no, one project. I wanted to take care of these doctors in Ocala so they can come in there. They have a haven. Nobody overcharges them. They're taken care of. Even their offices get cleaned. You know what I'm saying? They have a problem with the system right away. Somebody's going to go and fix it for them. And they own their buildings. I wouldn't own the building. I would build it for them with all the money that loans that I was bringing in and all this stuff. I would give them the loan, and I would build the office, and then they would do the business. You know what I'm saying? And then they would pay towards it or whatever like this. It was a business, but it wasn't for me. It was even under a corporation name, a variety of corporations. You know, the Lake Louise Office Park, you know, medical office park. Never took off, never did this. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is that, and then that 83 acres I had, and those people who know Florida, they understand. It was in the villages. That property that I have is probably worth $10 million easily. The one that I lost for $400,000, because it's boomed like crazy. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, the thing is that, again, there I was going to put the big medical park, and you know that was the second version of it. But you know the problem was also I was too. But it was never to be, because it was the 9/11, and then after that we went to the 2007 to 2008 that everything fell apart.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about. I'm sure it was the same in Canada. People all lost their houses. People who ventured in land, so what happened? They took back the land. They took back the stuff, and you know what they did? They put it on the deficit, making people feel guilty and ashamed that the country has a deficit. What deficit? Because you know what? The loans, the interest kills you. This is how these national deficits are created. Now, I don't want to talk about these things. But you know what? It was purposeful for me to learn these things, because I never did. As a university professor, as a researcher and stuff, I was doing what I'm doing now and what I like to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Only there I got disappointed and just left it, because I said, what is here? You do science of God. It's different. You know what I'm saying? So anything, any energy you have put into it, and even you can leave for humanity, do it, because there's nothing wrong with doing that. You know, it's not personal. It's not all this stuff. Anyway, enough of said. Going back to this separatist, they make you separate from yourself. And then there's these people who get with these equally. Please don't think even I was anything like that. It didn't bother me at all. Or people who fell from the top stories, killed themselves because they lost millions of dollars. For me, I just said, poof. It was just a venture. I want to do it for started with my wife doing it, all that stuff. You know, who cares? Who cares about money? You know, I never cared about money anyway. So you know what I'm saying? But other people do. It gets into this, and then you know the parasite starts feeding on you. They're telling you, you know, and you get into all this greed, and this anger, and this. I mean, what would make a guy go from the top floor and throw himself down because he just got bankrupt? Well, I got bankrupt. I didn't get bankrupt. That project got bankrupt.
I think it needs that kind of education, that you should know who you are actually, so that you don't indulge in such things. That requires a lot of self-education actually.
Yeah. I tell you what, it was really very, very shocking, actually, even for my wife herself. She says, "You sure you want to do all this?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to build this office park for you guys." Because I was retired as a professor, and my background is initially is in structural engineering, you know, and then I got into, you know, a lot of structural dynamics and earthquake wind engineering and all this stuff. And then I got into continuum mechanics. That's mechanics, and material science. And then I came up with micromechanics, which is a brand new field, married material science, meaning look inside with the scanning electron microscope to see what's developing inside in there when things are failing. So I came up with all the pioneering thing about microfracture mechanics, which I'm an unsung hero. Very few people know me. Some people from Berkeley, some recently made it because my papers were the first ones that came out. But anyway, you go, you know what I'm saying? You learn, you experiment, and they're all. This is what I've learned. Everything I've done in my life has been purposeful. Because if I didn't understand that financial system, that banking system, the incredible bad things that are going because of materialism, greed, you know what I'm saying? This banking, control of bankers, I understood them. Right after that, I got wise to Kabbalah. And that's before my formal awakening, the clarion call, the go creation of God. That's a different issue. That's its own thing. You know what I'm saying? That's when I started writing about spirituality. Okay, but anyway, what were you were saying? Separatism is what they've done. It comes in a variety of things, and where it started is from them. It got them into trouble. That's why they became disconnected. They separated themselves. Okay, and they pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled in this umbilical cord until it popped. And then they said, whoa, it's good to be separate. Who wants to abide by law of one? Who wants to, God, I'm God. They started thinking that they're God. They started calling themselves God, these negative aliens. You know what I'm saying? And ever since, but I tell you what, they're not stupid people in a way, because they came from a high consciousness that God had given them already. You know what I'm saying? They came actually from higher universes. They didn't even come from here. They invaded here later. You know what I'm saying? And then they developed AI. But you know how they developed AI? They took the Metatronic collectives who were very, very adept in genetics and all this stuff. And they enslaved them, tortured them, and then they reversed them. They made them work for them towards Metatronic reversal that you've heard about, right?
Yes, yes.
Same thing they did with actually even Anunnaki. Anunnaki go way back to Lyra, but Anunnakis were great geneticists. They knew genetics. They knew the science of genetics. During Atlantis, a lot of stuff that came was from the sons of Belial, which are connected to the, Enki, Enlil, Nibirurim. But they actually come from the Jehovians all the way down to Lyra. But anyway, I'm talking too much in here. I hope it gives you a general, you will see the details in some paper here or there. I'm trying to write everything down so nothing is unsaid. You know what I'm saying? And there is some information that are available. Other people know. Because this history of humanity and all this stuff, I didn't create it. I just managed it. You know what I'm saying? So, and they're connected people who are guardian founders, the star seeds, indigos. They've brought in little pieces of information from memory, if nothing else, because they wiped our history. There's no books that's going to tell you this. And make sure nobody gets to see that.
So anybody towards this remembrance, they are bringing from their memory?
Yeah, they've these high frequencies that have come out, and also they're clearing and cleansing their system. Because those clearing, cleansing, they're like frequency fences and the holographic inserts and stuff. They will not let the information to come out. Okay, they wipe you out. It's called blank slating. The military does it all the time with these super soldiers and all this stuff. Okay, they've taught them actually to do it. Gray's taught them how to do it. But so they blank slate. They used to blank slate us when we die, and then recycle our soul through astral plane, which I think one of our own, the other one who was reading that. Liz O'Connor is reading those.
Yes. Yes.
So anyway, they recycled through this. Actually, she just did it. The one on astral plane she just did, and the next one she's going to go into the old matrix, which is false matrix. It was negative aliens creating things and giving you half thing stories, just like what's left in Bible and stuff, and then put their poison in there to what is it, to mind control you. Okay, so the answer to that is yes. This the memories are coming back from these people and the bits and pieces, but you got to be careful. And I've started writing about that.
Yes.
Actually, there's a paper that I'm working on. It's just that the Galactic Federation of Light is phony. It's not right. All these Archangel Michael and stuff, they're phony. They're they're clones. They're AI clones.
Okay.
Yeah, they downloaded they took them in bondage, and then they downloaded their see, they can digitize your computer in your excuse me, consciousness. Your consciousness interfaces with electromagnetic energy, and those energy are signals. They're just waves. Okay, and they can capture those, just like when you do a video recording, just like what we are doing right now.
They are doing a lot, because sometimes even just we talk about something, like off of something, we start getting the ads for those things, and they are reading or what we are talking off the technology. Like sometimes you're not on technology, but we talk, and I don't know how, I think that's the waves kind of interaction, that they send us the things they want to sell, or they want to us to get involved in. So
absolutely, they interface with all those true holographic, things via inserts, which are all lies, and they're all fabricated. Because listen, when you have a file, I mean, you're good in a computer, so you see what it is. You get. Did you ever write? That's another part of my life. I wrote codes for computers. When I started, the computers, like with the Fortran and basics and stuff like this, do this, the loops and all this stuff. Step by step by step, we told the computer, what to do. And there was a machine language. Remember, there was cards used to punch and all that stuff. But anyway, so you teach the computer with these loops, because quickly it says no, yes, no. It's all binary, right? Yes, no, yes, no. So is this true? No. Is this true? No. So you guide it. You want to guide it from here to here, and it goes step by step, boom, no, step by step, until it reaches here by a series of questions that it's learned the answers to them. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it is. But now they're supercomputers, and they're quantum computers. They're so fast. So they take everything that goes in your mind, the slightest things that goes. It's all everything that goes in your mind. That's why heart, they can't do this. They can't touch it. They don't know. There's no AI with heart.
Yes.
Intuitive things between you and God. Between you, your higher self, that's higher self, that gets higher, higher, higher. And they're all connected. And they're all connected to God. That's how intuitive. But it has to be pure intuitive, not the brain comes and say, hey, that's intuitive. That's not, that's what you're telling me. You know what I'm saying? You have to develop those skills to become empath and become like an empath. With telepathy. And there's a paper I wrote years ago in the old 25 different things, 24, 25 I identified unique traits we have, like bilocation and telekinesis, this. They're all there. But anyway, going back to this, they take your thoughts are waveforms. They're energetic waveform. They're real. They're energetic waveform. I mean, they have tangible existence. Okay, but they can capture an image of that and digitize it.
And they never sit a moment to do that.
Excuse me, Sumaira, I noticed when you were reading this stuff, your voice, I hope we don't have to redo this, because your voice distorts badly. Either you're too close to the speaker, I think, a little bit, just a touch sometimes when you lean back or whatever, I see that the voice comes clear. So it's...
Now it's better.
Say something?
Is it better now?
Yes. See, that's audible. Then it becomes... See, that's what we're talking about, AI. It's a noise that gets... It's same principle. Same principle when you're watching TV. You know what I'm saying? And you see all these distortion.
Yeah.
Holographic insert is that. It's the quantum holographic wave reality of God that is supposed to come to us. They take that and they put an insert on it. It's like muddy, the whole thing. And then the picture that comes out is projected like into the screen. That picture is at the back of your head, or it is into the space-time. The whole space-time is like a curved screen. That's what a space-time is. What do you think it is? It's like a curved screen. That's why they started bringing curved screens. Remember? They went back. Now they don't have TV curved. But it's a curved, it has a curvature. The curvature gives you time, and the surface of it gives you space. These I've explained on a series, number of papers.
Yes.
Called space-times and fundamental states. Anyway, so are you happy with the answer, or you have questions?
Yes, I'm very happy, and I'm going to ask another question. That in this paper you have mentioned that the Earth is the university of duality, and with that I would say that so duality is created for us, and it's not created by the aliens. It's divine creation.
Bravo. Excellent. Your ask questions are so wonderful. Listen, I'm just writing a paper called The Duality. I wrote it 2-3 years ago, okay? But I went back to it. I found it by, fortuitously on the computer or my laptop, and I really perfected it. It's a little too long now. I have to either put it in I'm going to publish it very soon. It's actually, I'm just waiting for this group to go, because the next one is duality, because it answers the very same question you're saying. Listen, even I was I wouldn't say I was confused. I always look at the positive aspect of something, okay? But the university of duality that you're talking about did exist, okay? But not because negative aliens loved you or wanted you. It was like an aftermath of their nefarious thing. And with some organic consciousness being were trying to make sense out of their lives. And there are conferences on duality. The PhDs, the famous PhDs are giving lectures in there. And one time I was approached for actually to go to I think it was it was in California, not San Francisco, the other one. What's the other one? Anyway, the other city that they usually have. Anyway, okay, beautiful. Let me answer this question because it merits good answer. Duality is a fib, because evil is a fib. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. We know it, we feel it, we're going through it, right? But to say that that is an aspect of creation, it's blasphemy. It's desecration of God's consciousness mechanics. Are you with me? So basically, God didn't create duality. God created dualism. Have you seen my papers on dualism?
Yes.
Take a look at that. The dualism is very real. It says everything in the cosmos is created as a conjugate pair. The very fact that we have male and female is a prime example of that. In fact, that is the most fundamental, because God split itself into a trinity, into a male, female, and then androgynous or neutral component, which is itself from the very beginning. It's 0.3 or whatever you want to call it, okay? Are you with me? Am I losing you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, just be
No,
patient. I'll
I'm
answer your question. Very, I know what you have a very good question. Okay, so dualism is real. Space and time is an aspect of dualism. Matter, antimatter is that. The fact that the vector of time is a bivector, goes simultaneously this way and that way, is a dualism. That these are very major applications of the dualism. Okay, what I have introduced, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it, is a conjugate mirrored space now. Is a dualism.
Yeah.
Things are created in two, symbiotically, and they're supposed to support itself even if they look contrasting. Men and women are contrasting, but they're supposed to support each other, and they come together and become God again. God split itself that way. And that way creates a way for multiplication, for dissemination. That's how space-times were created. Okay, so basically time, excuse me, time had on the conjugate aspect, and that's space. So I've talked about congealment versus free flow. Okay, those are
Yes.
duality.
Last night.
Not duality.
Hmm.
Now they use that, they said duality, good and evil exist together. In fact, some people, I'm not going to name, one source was a very good source, actually, person. I like what comes out of her, but she's confused about this, and she mixes the conjugate mirrored space times as one is, because one is matter, what's antimatter, and the negative aliens do hide in antimatter. Excuse me, I gotta get some water. I'll be right back.
Time.
I'll be right back. Yeah, excuse me. I suffer from what you call spiritualization. It's Amrita, crystal waters, from pineal pituitary, and when I think and talk and all this stuff and get more spiritual minded, my pineal pituitary, it gets milked. They form the crystal waters, run through my throat, and if too much of it piles up, and then I have to clear my throat. Okay, because it comes in and goes into your blood, it goes into your left ventricle. Another piece of information that might be interesting for you. You will see that, like in the morning when you get up, you have to clear yourself, otherwise you can't even function. Sitting down for a while and all this, you've got to let this crystal waters run through you, because it collects right here. And also you may get sneezing. This is essentially simple.
A lot of sneezing.
Yeah, that's starting it. See, because those crystal waters, Amrita, is a combination of secretion from the pineal and pituitary.
Okay.
Okay, your brain is re-encrypting right now. Your genetics is re-encrypting. Okay, and the more you get into this, the more you become spiritualized. Your blood gets spiritualized. The way it gets spiritualized is through Amrita. Okay, crystal waters they used to call it. Okay,
So it's a good thing.
I'm sorry.
So it's a good thing. I should not mistake it for lung.
No, it's absolutely. It gives you a flu-like symptom
Yeah.
that sometimes I'm sitting there and there's no reason. I mean, I have no flu or nothing. I have to sneeze 2, 3 times because when it starts just dripping, it's right by your nose. It's in within your sphenoid. You know, pituitary. Look it up and see where pituitary and pineal are. So it's
Yeah.
very close to your nose cavity. It tickles. It teases. So you have to sneeze. But
Yes.
most of the time, it just runs down and it collects in your throat and it goes down. And if you are sleeping for a long time, it just boom, 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 boom. And when I sleep, I never sleep. You know what I'm saying? I sleep, but I don't sleep. But yeah, I actually now force myself to sleep. So I get a few hours, and maximum 4, but 2. I try to make it 2 and 2. But used to be like 22 hours a day. Anyway, going back to think duality.
Duality, yes.
So do you know what dualism is? Read the paper, okay? Maybe I'll have you come in and recite it.
Yes, for sure. I will do that.
It is the most fundamental thing in creation. You want to understand God's creation, you have to understand dualism, not duality.
Oh, okay.
But negative aliens, they muddy everything. They put everything into sewer, okay? So what they said is that you think we're evil, well, they don't acknowledge God, but they say we exist as a part of this universe because of duality. You guys think that way, we guys think this way. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And Anunnaki have tried very hard through their council to bring legitimacy to duality, and they've got paltering. I'm going to, in a paper, the duality is going to come out very quickly. Maybe again, you can look at that. But I wrote it a long time ago with reference to Anunnaki, because when I looked at the Anunnaki, I said, boo, baloney, and never buy this. They talk about the 3 experiments that humanity has had, in Lyra, and then Sirius, then Pleiades, and more the 4th one. Okay, and they say it's very purposeful by creation, and basically they say reptilians are here, humans are here. We're supposed to come to a polarity integration. There's 2 polar poles. They're supposed to learn from us to become softer because they are the warriors. They're the all this stuff. They don't believe in love and all this stuff. We believe in love. We're not warriors. We're all this stuff. So we have to learn together to come in the middle, and then we're perfect. Okay, but that's nonsense. This is something that they stole from the idea of 0-point field. Maybe there's polarity integration of gender, stuff like that, Euroscammers, sacred marriage, all this kind of stuff. And then, so in it say that. And then it is true. They have come and annihilated everything in Lyra. Then they went to Sirius. Then they went to Pleiades. They've done all that stuff. Then they go into Tara. They don't talk to you about Tara. This is interesting. How about Tara? Tara is the main thing. This is when you really destroyed us. You really, really, you know what I'm saying? That is where the cataclysm of human race happened. Because we dropped into first harmonic universe, and we weren't even planned for first harmonic universe. Ever. That was too low for us. From crystalline, we became amorphous. From 12D strand, we became 2D strand. We're not 2D strand. We're still 12D strand. They can't change that. That's God's design. They can't change it. They can muddy it, distort it, damage it, everything is on the surface. Then you clean it up and it's back there. And that's where we are right now. We're cleaning up the goo, and then we're going back to the core crystalline, which it's in all of us. Okay? Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm totally.
Okay, so anyway, they talked about these 3 experiments that they failed because the negative aliens always won. They don't call it negative aliens, they only call it reptilians. That's a very legitimate phrase. That's the way they talk about it. And they call themselves, they're hybrid, they're very legitimate. They've got both, Anunnaki, okay? This came from Anunnaki. I can go through it. There was the 9D Council was talking about all this stuff, and they're all like Galactic Federation. They're all, they carefully planned all this stuff because they know we're awakening. They want to muddy the water. So, and they want to confuse the heck out of us, baffle us to such a way that we just scream and say, I don't want to even know anything. Put me back to the state of zombie, amnesiac. I don't even want to know. Have you heard the expression, ignorance is bliss?
Yes.
They actually give you bliss now. They give you mushrooms, they give you drugs, they get you into this so-called new age spirituality garbage, which I'm writing about right now. And you know what I'm saying? The program, they stream upon you these AI holographic inserts, and everybody thinks they are actually surfing in space-time, and they're not. You know what I'm saying? And then when they wake up and they said, did you see that? Yeah, did you see that? We can't all dream together. It's real. Then within this, they put all the information they want, or everything that they want to do. Whether they want to dupe you to believe that you're this and this and that. Are you with me? And then once they do that, they get your attention. You become their slave. Anything they say, you believe it. So I went through a mushroom thing. I did this. I did that. This is the real thing. People are looking for answers.
Yes, this is true.
When something comes in that is so out of the box and looks supernatural or looks godly or coming from higher dimension, they fall for it. They put you in a hole, and then you're in the black hole after that, because they want your soul. That's what they want. Right now, they want to make you transhuman. They want you to make you AI and all that stuff. Anyway, going back to duality, here's what it is. A lot of the scholars wrote about University of Duality. University of Duality in Earth. There is one positive way of looking at this, is that the presence of this virus, you know what a virus does, right? It can actually, you know how vaccine works, real vaccine, not the one that they're pushing on us. The vaccine gives you a little bit of virus in your body, or bacteria, especially, okay? Your body fights that and then learns how to fight it. So it becomes stronger. Initially, it's weak because it's mobilizing. It's, the blood cell, the white blood cells and all this stuff. But then after it's gone, you never get sick with that. Smallpox, children, bunch of stuff, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's the principle, right? Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, going back to what they are, their virus, okay? And so it would conjure up the thought that this negative aliens have been good for me, because it's created this school of hard knocks. I wrote about all this myself. And it's true to a point. Okay? Except it's not the whole story, because it doesn't come from God. As long as you think that you're stuck in that, it wasn't meant to be. It was a negative alien aftermath, whatever. That's fine. Yeah, but it didn't work. You see, here's how it tells you. If it's a university of duality, then how come people haven't become better? How come they haven't expanded their consciousness? It's reduced their consciousness, diminished their consciousness over millennia and millennia since Atlantis. Why? If it's a university of duality, you know what it means? It means the coursework is difficult, you work hard. You understand that as a Pakistani background. Indians do, Persians did. We worked hard when we were kids in school.
Yeah. Yes.
There's nothing like these guys going to school, you know, our Americans in here now, right now. And they know it. Now they all know it. Because it's all about popularity and doing this and this. Very few end up becoming good scholars. The rest of them, they're just, everybody will tell you, every American will tell you nowadays, they're smart enough to tell you that now, that our education has been a total waste. At least we learned the principles of mathematics or this or that, and we apply. That's why the Pakistanis, the Indians, the Persians, I mean, you look at the university professors, most of them, a lot of them are Persians, first of all. The greatest deal of them are Persians. The second thing, they're Indian and Pakistanis.
Yes.
And then Chinese, also Chinese. Now, Chinese used to be good, but now it's on their negative aliens. So AI, you know. But 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I mean, you looked at those kids from Japan and China, they were so serious in their thing. They were excellent. They were brought up very nicely in their families, you know, their virtues. Because China has a very, very good background history too. Anyway, so University of Duality will work if it's done in good faith, right? But it didn't work that way. There's all this stuff the Anunnaki said about all this stuff is nonsense. This duality experiment is nonsense. All it was is to kill us more, to have more war with us. So they say it. The first war they won, the second they war, third they war. This is the fourth experiment. We've never reached polarity integration. They say it also. They always said it. Why? And the other questions that are very interesting. How come we're supposed to learn from the reptilians for the epitome of a strength, which is not strength. It's a stupid, brawnish, you know, patriarchal, male chauvinistic, warlike violence and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
How come they never learned anything from us? What did they learn? Love. When was the last time you saw a loving reptilian? You know, so anyway, so duality would have, you know, so unfortunately a lot of scholars, philosophers and stuff like this have fallen into this and have written books, and I don't read it, but I hear of it. You know what I'm saying? I don't have time to read, and it's a waste of time a lot of times if you read this stuff, because there's already another truth to it. They did their best, and they wrote, and it was probably good for the time. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, duality. If you say, here's what I'm saying, quote me on that. If you feel duality is a part of creation, it's a fib. This is a fib. This is not correct. This is a misinformation, disinformation. If you say that duality has existed on the planet, yes, because of the negative aliens. Evil has been here. Satan, satanics, Luciferians, all this stuff has been here. How can you say it's not? In fact, you better learn that it has been, how it's worked, so you can stop it, and you'll never let this happen anymore. Nip it in the bud for future, even when you ascend, never go back to it. And every time you look at it, I don't want to go that far, but it conjures up a feeling of disgust instead of going there and, you know, subscribing to it. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So duality has, evil is not supposed to exist. There are no two gods. There's not a good God and a bad God. There's only one God. There's only one cosmos. And that cosmos is a body of that one God. Everybody else who does something, they're alien. You don't go by the wish of God. You don't belong in this system. Find another cosmos. Because this cosmos is a body of this God. Are you with me?
Yes.
And it is within you, and you are a part of that God, and you are God. And even if you weren't, you had any senses, you would adore it. You know what? The second minute I feel a little off, not excited, not happy, not stuff like this, I close my eyes, go into zero fear. I said, hi, God. Hi. And I join with him. You know what? Headaches go, everything goes. And you know what happens after that? Inspiration. You gotta sit down and write. That's that. Now that you get back to physicality, and it's work. But you know what? It makes me happy because I say I'm serving. I'm serving God to start with, not these bad things I've seen in humanity. But those are part of God. And they can't help it. I think of Jesus, what he said, Joshua, forgive them, Father. Of course, he never said Father, but forgive them, Father, or forgive them, God, progenitor. They know not what they do or what they say. Because you got to forgive them, and you got to teach them, you got to help them, and you got to be their friends. And you got to, and then you know what? All that good comes out, and you see the oh, I got the same thing. And then you feel like we're buddies. Now, people are different. Some of them are more introverts. Some of them are more reserved. You know what I'm saying? But if you're not, and if you have that capability, I think you owe it to express yourself, but don't ever push yourself on people. Everything I tell you in here, you don't believe it, discard it. And I will not take it against you or even think a second about it. Because whatever you think is your thoughts, it's your consciousness space, it's your prerogative, and you're entitled to that. And it's equally, I would say it's sort of equally acceptable. Not acceptable, equally, what's the word I was thinking? This viable.
Wow.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
You happy with duality?
Yes, I'm good.
Thank you for bringing that up. You're ahead of me because I'm just writing the paper. No, actually, I've written the paper. Would you like me to finish that for you to read it?
Yes, I would
Oh my
definitely.
God. I
Whenever
have
you
to offer people, would you like, what am I going to do? I'll do it. I'll do it. I always stay up at night and do whatever.
yeah, actually, sometimes I think that you're really working too much to give, and that actually inspires me as well. That's what I can say. When you write too much, I was looking through your different websites, and I was checking the list of papers on every uh, section, and I was going through like that. Oh my goodness, this is a lot of work to do. And even producing one or two papers, because when we are in research, we have to produce papers to earn our PhDs and like that. Even those papers are like at times difficult, like 4 to 5 years of time. And you are producing so much of the value, and it's continuous and it's a lot. And that's inspiration for those who actually want to enter.
I hope it's not a waste of time doing it. You don't think I will?
No, I want to say it here. And
I know you don't. But I hope that even those people who don't read, which we're trying to, you know, by these programs, help to get them to get acquainted with all this thing. But I want to tell you this, Sumaira, okay? And you're going to come across this little by little by little. If you stay with me, do all this stuff, okay? It's not the only part of it that's tough is the physical part of it. You know what I'm saying? It's when you come in and have to ground back up and all this stuff. It is not. It actually, what you're saying is so enjoyable. Enlightenment is the utmost form of joy.
Yes.
You know, those people who have been thinking about sex is this, or watching their accounts, those digits increase in the bank, they think that's joy. Oh, they don't know anything about joy. This is joy. It's really joy. You connect back with God, and then it flows through you. It's very, very effortless when those come. I used to, when I was a professor, you know, something I had to push hard to come up with something. Now it just flows. I'm running away from it because I don't have, the thing is to bring it into words and type it and then coordinate between the two status of consciousness state. You know, that's the only thing. And you know what? When my shoulders ache, because I do get that too. I mean, you know, it's very, very hard in your central nervous system.
Yes, it's very hard.
Because it's all brain power. It's not all brain power, but it requires that. You know what I'm saying? To articulate something and all this stuff, it's all come from there, you know? Your heart may come out. By the way, I'm blessed because I think my English was always very good. Everything's been purpose in my life. I spent tremendous amount of energy on being an articulated, you know, speaker, okay? Not because I wanted it, I never did it professionally, you know, just a few presentations here and there. In fact, I didn't like to show myself on the podium. I was, believe it or not, I'm not shy, but I felt uneasy. This comes from the heart. I don't even think I'm talking. It just comes out. You see that, right? It just comes out because it's so natural. When it's natural, it's effortless, okay? The part of it that's not effortless is the bringing it into English, typing it, and then making sure you communicate with that person, plug into their brain, so don't you lose them. You see, I do apologize for doing this, but do you see how many times I said, you know, you see what I'm saying? All this stuff? Because I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose anyone.
Yes, yes.
It is something I want to delete in my conversation, but it comes so naturally from my heart that it's hard to stop it. Because I want to make sure you're there. Because when you show me your face, I see where you are, and as soon as you're not, boom, I withdraw and I explain more fundamental. It takes a lot of energy. By the way, these talks and stuff takes tremendous energy. And I'll tell you something, ever since I've been doing this, I have not been able to write as much because I get drained even after it's done. It's a lot of energy, you know?
Yeah, lots. You have to compose yourself a lot.
It's not the mental energy, I mean, not the consciousness energy, it's the what I call congealed physical energy.
Yes.
And there's so much of that. Now, if you go and exercise and do this, you bring it back because you demand converting back into physical congealment. I don't do much of that too. I'm not very good at it. You know what I'm saying? And then when I want to go out there, there's chemtrails. Well, I'm not going to go out there when there's chemtrails.
Yes. There's a lot these days. You're in Canada as well?
Oh gosh, they're trying so hard right now. They're trying so hard to kill everybody. Anyway, but don't go out, by the way, on that thing. If it's chemtrail, stop. Don't go out, it'll clear out because the selves will clear it up. There are fourth dimensional elementals there, they work on it, they neutralize it. Don't you see how it gets neutralized? Do you see how the cloud moves in and eats them up? You know, these things, when I talk to these things about my brother, who's a very celebrated professor from University of Connecticut, you know, and he's a quiet believer and he's a very good supporter and a wonderful guy and all this stuff. But then he goes, it's like talking about fairies and talking about, you know, it's just we're not used to it. We haven't experienced that. And we could easily go in the fourth dimension and see, you know, mermaids, fairies, stuff like this. And people have done throughout history, children especially, you know. But you can't talk about it. When you talk about it, you look like an idiot. You know? Now people are beginning to think this is not being an idiot. Talking about the UFOs, talking about this and that, they're not idiot. It's actually, you know, talking about robots and all these things because they're beginning to feel it. And people are getting bombarded with it right now because they've made their presence a lot more known because they don't want to lose. They're putting their clutches on us to hold on to this physical realm, you know. So well, I think if you don't have any questions, we should probably close the session. We've had a long.
That's it for today. And looking forward to your next paper, duality or dualism.
Did you want to do the unity consciousness, or should I give it to somebody else?
No, I complete the series.
That's part 3, right? That's part 3, I think, of the series you're reading. And part 4 gets a little bit into matrix, linear matrix and stuff like this. We can do that. We can also, I'll pay more attention, participate if you need it, but I think you'll figure it out by yourself. You know? It's just got some math. It's good sometimes to put that in front of them. It's not part of their everyday spiritual. I don't really actually like ritual, but if they do ritual, it's not part of that. But it's good to see the math is there, something is there, substantiated. You know, to believe it and don't think that they're just fantasizing on all this. You know, because the biggest problem I've had for the past 10 years in my own family were completely different now. My own children, to say what I'm saying is real. Negative entities do exist. You know?
It feels, I mean, one can feel that it is real. What you're talking is real. Because I can tell you with different aspects that why I feel so is that because these things, when you start reading, and I think one should do that, you become to a point where you start knowing, like you talk in the sense of knowing, not believing something.
Inner knowing.
Yeah.
I wrote a little paper on that, a little essay, because people have bugged me over years, still do. A constant question, but new people who come in. How do you know all this? How do you know? So I finally wrote 2 papers. One was The Art of Knowing. It's not a paper. It's a Art of Knowing is only an essay, which is the exact things that I wrote in their comments. And then the other one, they're very short essays. And then the other one, where they were asking me, are you a channeler? Are you a channeler? And then I said the difference between channeling and knowing. So there are 2 papers like that. There are 2 essays, short essays. We've tried to cover up all we can to, you know, for people, because it's good for people to ask questions. I actually, before we go this, I again invite people's attention to not feel shy, and ask questions. Send the questions actually directly to Sumaira, okay, and or if they want to do it to me too, and then we can see if we can actually at some point create some group discussions among all the readers and stuff, and they have the things. You'll have the stuff. I've had this question. You answer it as much as you can, but then you elaborate it for the entire public and make it an archive thing that people can play it back and again in the future, because that's what we're trying to do in here.
Yes.
It's for everybody. It's not a private thing. You don't, you're welcome to come into this soul group and participate and become a reader and become a part. But even when you come in there, you come in as a part of the family of human consciousness. But initially, we have a smaller group, and hopefully it grows. And if it doesn't, whatever God wants, whatever is to be done is fine. And if I'm gone, I'm gone. At least it's on the video. That's why I've tried to put everything on paper, so they can, and it is happening because people are going there, digging out, and you say, "Whoa, what happened? Where were you before?" But they become more, their frequency goes up, and they become more awake, and they want answers. And the people who read the papers, they keep coming and reading because they find some answers, as you said before. So it's up to them.
Because I found answers. And I think it's very much needed. One should invest time and energy to read and allow yourself to absorb this first, and then you will start realizing that the answers are there in the papers.
It's also a layering process, Yes. You get acquainted with it. It germinates the thing in your heart and your DNA, and then it comes back. You play it back, and then next time when you see it, you say, "I know this," and you say, "How do I know this?" You may even come across sometimes that you start, and a lot of people have done this, right? Written books from my stuff. Well, not my stuff. It's not my stuff. It's everybody's stuff. You know what I'm saying? But they've written books and all this stuff. And some of these people don't even know where it came from. It's amazing. I saw them 4 or 5 years later, and then they're coming and they're preaching to me. So I'm thinking, that's a positive thing. That's a positive. I'm not gonna even go there because I'm not gonna go after copyright. I'm not gonna go after. But it's good. But you know what? There's one thing I will tell you this. Do everything with responsibility. Because if you don't do it with responsibility, not only you're not doing something good, you're going backwards to the service to self and all that kind of stuff. Don't think you even learned it. Whatever you do is superficial, you regurgitate it to make a name, money, whatever, or to even satisfy your ego, whatever. It's not going to increase your frequency. Trust me. You think you know, you don't know. But if you make it your own, it is your own. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Depth is very important, and keep the purity. That's another thing. Purity. And every time you feel a little bad, it's the parasitic. The parasitic feelings are still there. They are still in the field. They haven't been destroyed yet. There will be pretty soon. But even if yourself, because of bad habits, we're creature of habits. We think in those terms we used to. When it comes there and it's not a good feeling, I told you, keep your eyes closed. Go to it, 0 point field. you think that you're far away, distant, because negative aliens have done this. This is the subject of this paper, separation. After a while, you see not only God is opening the door, is inviting you in, little by little, and then you see it. That's when the inspirations run. That's the way acumen is there. That's the way healthy life is there. That's you start living your life as an offspring of God within a reality which is God's world, not contaminated by a negative alien matrix, all that. So that's all I have to say. Anything else, my dear?
No, I'm good. So it was session.
Very good. Thank you very much for your time in doing this, and I will try to close this. And I feel that maybe next time, when you want to do it, you're ready, just let me know, and then maybe you can directly introduce yourself and get into it, and then call me back later, and then all the questions we talk about, short or whatever it has to take at the end of your program. But within that program, you can express yourself and all this stuff. You basically talk to the audience. I'm not going to be there, but you know what I'm saying? But I'm always there. So one phone call, I'm there. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so if that's okay with you, next time you are going to represent it yourself. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm only here to kind of answer questions or get into the discussion, Okay, so very good. If you're done, if you have said everything you want, you finished,
Yes.
please go ahead and say goodbye to them until next time.
Okay. Very good paper, and I think people should read it and just go within, and you will find the answers. So, and I will be presenting the next paper for this upcoming week or so. Thank you very much for listening and watching this video. I hope to read the papers again, and you will come across with the questions. You can ask me, or you can ask in the group, or you can post in the videos comments. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. With that ending, I think that's very appropriate, and I'll just bid you farewell, and until next time we'll meet on a video. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.